Welcome to This Is Only a Test. It is CES. It's December 9th, January 9th, 2012. What? I don't even know where it is. This is a very special Day Zero CES podcast. I'm here with Gary Whitta. Gary's on the couch.
Hello.
It is a couch mightily full of people. Beside Gary, Mark Rein from Epic Mega Games. Is that no, not Epic Mega Games anymore.
Used to be.
I know. I remember that was the good old times, man.
Epic Games.
Thanks
When
for
did
coming by,
Epic
Mark.
Games stop becoming Mega?
Like 8? No. I don't know. 12
I kind of miss it
years
when it was
ago?
called Epic Mega. I still call it Epic Mega Games.
I think of it as Epic Mega Games in my heart. And over to my...
Ironically, we're more mega now than we were when we changed it.
Oh, Marky
away
Mark,
from
that's
mega.
humble brag.
Nice recovery.
Somebody tweet that, humble brag. Oh, yeah, okay.
Calling out the humble brag over to my right, Michael Pachter, host of the Pack Attack, analyst extraordinaire. You're kind of an expert in many things, but games, Netflix.
Games isn't one of them, but I am an expert in
Okay,
many things,
well,
yeah.
okay. Controversial as always, I guess. So this is day zero of CES. If you're just joining, then basically this is the day that there are 45 million press conferences. I went at press conferences at 7 o'clock this morning. I was in small, sweaty rooms full of dudes. It smelled like a junior high school locker room pretty much all day. That's what I did. We also have a panel. I'm just going to go over on Gary, to the left of Gary.
So to my left are
Yes.
really basically just a bunch of random
Yeah.
tech
These
reprobates
are-
that I picked up in the Planet Hollywood Sportsbook.
Yeah, so you've been in a bar all day while I was working.
Yeah, I was at the spa all day.
Oh.
I had an
Did you get a
80-minute
facial?
Swedish massage and jacuzzi, and it took a steam.
Did you get a facial?
CES is for suckers, dude.
I think he's a vegetarian as well.
Yeah.
and he might go home with you tonight.
So these guys are just going to pass the mic down and introduce
That is-
themselves so
that
that we
sounds
don't
great.
mess up their names
So,
and
yeah, live studio audience / panel to
yes,
call
there's
bullshit.
the peanut gallery.
Yeah, to call
You know what's
bullshit.
great, though, is 3 of these guys have last names that are words. I think that's really interesting.
All right, well let's get into it.
Hi, my name's Kevin Dent. I'm Gary Whitta's masseuse, and yes, there was a happy ending.
For you, maybe.
This is starting well.
I also work with guys that make
4
mobile
of them.
games and iPad games and games in general.
For example.
For example,
Last names are words.
Guitar Hero. I worked on Field Runners.
Okay. Love Field Runners.
Yeah, it's
All right,
really good
good
game.
stuff. And another
Dan, beer.
good friend of mine right here.
All right, so
We had most of the British Isles covered here tonight.
yeah, my name's Marcus B, and I'm Gary Whitta's love child. I
would believe it.
I am also Annoyed Gamer on Twitter, XPR guy, and I work with Game Trailers on the Invisible Walls podcast, and I'm basically a mouthy British arsehole.
If we had Jeff Green
Okay.
here, we would have all of the grumpy old men of gaming from
Rob
PAX.
Smith too.
And Rob Smith. That's
Yeah.
Rob Smith is very
It'd
grumpy.
Be really kind of mental. So
Yeah.
You're up, Antipodean.
Greg Short, I am the CEO of EDAR, which is a research firm, and throw around of all random stats and things. But I'm also Australian, and I've not been involved in any massages today. But the sportsbook went well, and Alabama came up. So
Pachter won.
Alabama won?
Pachter won $1,000.
Coin,
he
baby.
did very well. He did
We
very
hit some
well.
Pachter
Wow.
parlayed and then hit the blackjack tables like a
And
goddamn rain man.
I think Jesse Divnick was the only person who lost tonight on.
I'm thinking that people now should appreciate that I'm just one lucky bastard. You know?
And we have one more with us.
Hello, Lee Matcham with Intel. I manage gaming, and I'm very lucky to be part of this August panel. Thank you very much.
wouldn't.
Hold on, did you air quote the August? Son? Yeah, okay.
August. That's very, very nice.
So,
He's calling us old.
well, am I the youngest person?
You actually might
I'm the
be.
youngest person here, probably with a bullet, I think.
Holy shit.
How old
Yeah,
are you?
I'm 36.
Yeah, you got me good.
Yeah. Oh,
Oh, there you go.
so
And Dan, what are you, 38?
I'm 38, and
Yeah,
there's no
okay,
fucking
geezer.
way he's 35. He's like 45 at least.
CES Day Zero.
CSD 0. I'm not gonna. We'll do press conference recaps later when Norm gets here because he was in the sweaty gym sock smelling rooms with me. But while we have this panel here, we should talk about games. One of the big topics at neither the Sony nor the Microsoft press conference today was gaming. I wasn't at the Sony conference because apparently Will Smith was there, and
They got the other Will Smith.
We can't be in the same room. I offered my services as a Will Smith to Microsoft, but they didn't want to take me up on that. We didn't actually see. We got a status check from Microsoft on where the Xbox is. Apparently, they're selling a lot of consoles.
Yeah, no
You probably
kidding.
know more about that than any of the rest of
No
us.
kidding.
Michael. They kind of had a chase with the Wii for a long time through this generation. And then the last couple of years have been real good for Microsoft. No word of next gen consoles. It's 2012. We're thinking, GDC, E3, CES, sometime in one of these 3 events. If there's going to be consoles this year or next, we'll start hearing about them. But it seems like nothing. No
Yeah,
word.
I mean, I don't think consoles are coming next year, and if they are, you're right. If we're getting an Xbox 720 next year, they'll announce it this year. I don't think you're getting one next year, so don't think you can announce it this year.
And what do you base that on?
I mean, I think that Microsoft is in this to make profit. I think that
Interesting.
Yeah, go figure. It's a profit deal. I think that as long as they have the Xbox 360 priced above $199, the core model, the one with the hard drive, they're not ready to launch a new console. And I think at $299 now, with no real sign that it's coming down, I think it comes to $249 sometime in 2012. I just don't think they're ready. I think they cut to $199 sometime in 2013. They may launch a box in 2013.
End of 2013.
They may,
Do you
but
think-
I think they'd rather do it in 2014. And the reason I'm so adamant that they're not announcing anything is they told me so. And the way they told me, they didn't say, we're not talking about it. They go, we're not going to announce a new console this year. And I said to them, bad form if you are telling me a bald-faced lie.
Right.
Better to just say we're not talking about it, which is what Mark Rein says, which I'm okay with.
Mark, are you talking about this?
Yeah, no, if you know something and you don't talk about it, that's cool. But to know something and openly lie, that borders on being distrustful. So I believe them, and they really have never lied to me before.
Well, so with the Wii sales kind of went off a cliff, right? What, a year and a half ago?
And I mean, we haven't gotten MPD numbers. They're coming out Thursday, but Nintendo put out January 3rd a press release saying their cumulative sales in the U.S., implying that the Wii sold 1.1 million in December. And combined Nintendo consoles sold something like 3.1 million in December, 4.8 million a year ago, and 7.1 million 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So 7 to 5 to 3, that is off a cliff. They're just getting murdered.
So
I think that's what happens when you launch a next gen.
And they
console.
do need a next-gen system, and it's coming this year, right?
But
they're at CES talking about it.
And again, I take a lot of shit for this. Their next gen system is a current gen system.
Right.
So so they're
Because they've been one
catching up.
generation behind this whole last generation.
Right. So I'm getting these reporters here who know nothing about gaming, and of
Right.
course I know the audience will say I know
You're in
nothing
this
about it either. Yeah. No, but people who go, oh well, what are Microsoft and Sony going to do to catch up with Nintendo? They don't care. Microsoft especially is not afraid of the Wii U. They look at the Wii U as an Xbox 360 with a tablet controller, and it's going to likely come out at a higher price point than the 360 at the time.
Well, Microsoft's business, I mean, they've launched the Kinect business, which obviously is targeted kind of casual audience.
And media, I think.
And media, fair enough. But, I mean, they're also, their main audience is core gamer, right? Call of Duty, Halo, people who like to shoot people in Gears of War.
Right.
Yeah, of course. I'm not usually Gary's sitting over here, so
Massage coming soon.
so but no, I
In
mean,
stores
if-
now. Get your
if-
copy today.
If 360 goes off a cliff this year,
If-
then all bets are off, right?
Sure. But remember, at $300, it's still selling really strongly. If they cut the price to $200 and it still falls off a cliff, absolutely, they will rush the next console.
Well,
I don't question they're working on it. No question at all. I just don't think they're ready to launch it.
So let me throw this out there. Microsoft, over the last 3 years, they've been very, very open in their objective, which is to become Nintendo, which they did last Christmas with the Kinect.
Yeah.
They've basically hit the mid-core. Hardcore gamers, really, with the exception of games like Forza and that Gears of War thing that was quite successful.
It's the one with the chainsaw gun,
Yeah,
right?
but
I don't think that really
that
works.
was pretty much it last fall for Xbox exclusives. Everything else was really good quality, multi-platform exclusives.
Assassins.
This year we know we've got Halo 4 coming out. But I would say to you, Mr. Pachter,
And Fable. Their Fable Connect game. Can't wait for that one.
Oh, hang on. Let me just. I'm
Cast
sorry.
your spells.
That's me just shitting on Fable Connect. Yes. So I'm going to throw this out to you because we work together. We do a lot of game trailer stuff together. I would say to you, and this is my bold prediction, that Microsoft are not only going to announce a 720 or whatever it is at this E3. I also think that it will be available probably spring next year, and you will laugh at me right now because I honestly think that this man sitting right here, I am sure he has 720 dev kits stocked up in his office, and I am sure that there is a Gears prequel, and this is just me, hypothesizing. I would say that there is a Gears prequel
Reach?
or a Gears 4 or whatever it is, ready to go for the new console or maybe Christmas of of 2013. And I think Microsoft have said, we're going to continue to make money on the Xbox. Next Christmas will be great. We'll release a $249 bundle with Kinect involved. There'll be a bunch of more people buying Dancy games, and they'll be happy. Nintendo's not going to be a factor. And then they'll have the mid-core and they'll have the hardcore the following year.
As much as I want to side with Pachter here, because I think he is right more often than he's wrong,
or at least
why would they do it? If they're at a point now where they're selling more Xbox than they ever have, and probably finally making a profit on those machines, because obviously with each new generation you lose money on the systems. Why start over again? Why not continue the gravy train that they're fighting? It's taken 6 years to get here. Why start all over again with a new generation?
I think they can have their cake and eat it, which is a great British phrase, in that they can have the mid-core for $249, a Kinect bundle with a basic Xbox, and they can for this Christmas, and then next Christmas they can do the same, but also have the hardcore gamers salivating over $720.
The issue is the publisher, the developer dilemma. Do you chase the mass of the 50 million installed base, or do you chase the 3 million or 5 million hardcore new base? It's really expensive for Epic to make, whatever your next game is.
Please leave me out of this discussion.
You were the one who insisted sitting right next to
It's really expensive for them.
This is a big talking
Halo
scene,
5 for the Xbox 720 and only be able to sell 2 million units because there's only 3 million boxes. And so they're going to want to milk this cycle for as long as they can. Well, I just think it's another year. I don't think this is never. I think it's 2014.
To that point, it's something I think I'd like to sort of open up here is, what is the next gen? Okay, they need Blu-ray or something that can be higher storage because they can't keep putting 12 discs in a SKU. They need a little bit more memory, a slightly faster, graphics processor, and we know where that contract's gone. But what's the hook? What are they delivering?
1080p.
Well,
yeah, but who gives a shit?
But I really, I really want to understand what is the next generation of hardware? What's it really going to deliver above and beyond? Because the TVs aren't really there yet to fully support it yet.
I will say one thing. So, and this is not in relationship to Xbox, but the comment you made about 1080p is one of the truly misguided comments about what next gen means, right? Mm-hmm. In other words, the resolution doesn't matter. What matters is how many things you can put on the screen, how many objects you can have on the screen, how much AI you can have on the screen. In other words, remember back in the PC days. Here's a great example.
You mean today?
No, I'm talking about back in the early days of PCs when we had CRT monitors.
Okay.
And what we would do, and that CRT is the important part, what we would do every year is we would change our super gaming enthusiasts, we would change out our graphics card. And we would get way more detail and way more cool stuff going. We didn't have to change the monitor.
Right.
See, in other words, you're confusing the display resolution with the amount of stuff that's on in the scene. Hang on, let me finish. And the point is that there is so much more stuff we can put in the scenes. And yet, should it be 1080p? Sure, that would make sense that every game is 1080p 30 as a minimum. Great. But the point is that we can do. You just can't say, we already have 1080p TVs, so we don't need any better graphics. That's just so untrue. There's an infinite amount more detail left to be uncovered in these kinds of games, which requires an infinite amount more memory, an infinite amount of more storage space, an infinite amount more networking capabilities, an infinite amount more cloud services. Like the people who think that we've seen it all are like the guy in 1899 who ran the patent office and said, well, everything that could be patented has already been patented. It's just, we don't need more than 640K.
Well, I mean,
but if you look at what Microsoft's last big success, which has really extended the life of the current Xbox, is why we still have a next-gen system, which is the Kinect. That has nothing to do with putting more things on the screen or increasing resolution. It's about a new way to interact with games.
But that's a different thing. That's the Rock Band effect. What that is mom and dad go to somebody's house, they see the kids dancing, playing Dance Central, instead of shooting each other in the face, and they immediately drive down to the store and buy Rock Band or Kinect or whatever, because they don't want their kids playing Call of Duty.
Well, and like you said, that was a lifetime extender.
Yeah,
but the lifetime's been extended, and now it's time for a whole new life.
Yeah, the other question is that...
And I don't mean...
Next-gen consoles 2013,
I don't mean now, today,
but Are we giving Microsoft too much credit
to do a new one.
Are we giving Microsoft too much credit here? Because we've gone through a period for the last 2 years of a state of schizophrenia in the video game space where no one knows what they are. Am I a Facebook publisher? Am I a...
free-to-play.
Xbox, free-to-play, premium? What am I? They don't know. video games has broken through a glass ceiling and suddenly find its fucking cloud up there. Okay, so is the next gen console going to be focused on the cloud? Is it going to be focused on a hybrid model? Is it going to be half on the disk, as Greg says, where you're just you're constantly downloading?
I can tell you, it's going to be a console.
Yeah, it's going to be a console.
It's going to be a new, better piece of hardware that has way more compute power.
Can you, like as with World of Warcraft, as you're playing, you're downloading new content?
That has nothing to do with the next gen console. You can do that on the current gen console. You can do that on the last gen console. That's just
if they allow you.
Well,
Exactly.
whatever. That's services. That isn't the console.
But that's what next gen console is going to be about. Services like Comcast.
Nah.
Okay, then why are Microsoft pursuing it?
Microsoft's pursued a lot of things over the years.
They did in their press release.
Well, did anything come out of what Microsoft talked about the Xbox today to indicate like where they want to be going?
They've sold very many games. Kinect is a huge success. The new live experience is awesome, and we really think that we did a great job with everything. And they didn't show Netflix, so.
Doesn't the success of Kinect mean that they double down on Kinect on the
No,
next
they didn't
generation?
show the new Butcher
Yeah, I
yet.
think
Netflix.
so. I mean, I think Kinect has more possibility for the voice command, doing search for multimedia, and maybe I'd actually rather see a tablet, but maybe the camera to use a program guide or something that it does for gaming.
Well,
we don't want to cast spells in Fable. I mean, as you shit on Fable. I think that's stupid. You might do it once or twice, but you're going to get really tired of just.
How many times did you play Child of Eden with the sticks versus with your waving your hands? Right.
Yeah, I don't wave my hands. Right. I mean, the only time I've ever used the Wii controller the way it's supposed to be used is Super Mario Galaxy doing a little spin to break rocks or whatever, But that, I mean, I just don't.
And there's something also misconceived about just the navigation way. Like this seems very great,
Right.
whereas it's actually a lot more effort than just pressing a button. Like,
Right.
it's-
Or
it's-
I actually think the tablet. I think scrolling your finger on a tablet is the easiest way to go. So I think the Wii U control scheme is really smart. Add in the voice command, add in the camera, have everything. That would be really
Well, except for the thing that they had last year was a resistive touchscreen that you couldn't really use your finger on.
No, it would be nice if you would just integrate the Xbox 720 with any type of smart tablet, any kind of tablet. That'd be great if I could do that. If I could, I mean, I actually think
I'm
ultimately.
perfectly happy doing this.
Yeah.
It works fine.
there's really nothing wrong with that.
What I'm doing this is going to get to whatever that thing I want. And actually, I'm very impressed, to be honest, how well the Bing stuff.
It actually works really well.
The voice stuff really works well.
It
does.
really is good.
It does
Well,
work well.
so I think Microsoft really hasn't even begun to scratch the surface of exploiting multimedia with Kinect and 360. They don't need that super graphics card or the cloud storage. They don't need all that processing power to do multimedia.
No.
The Xbox, the 360 will do it now. I think we have another year of that.
Which is
That's all
why I
I'm saying.
think you'll continue to see. Which
No,
is why
it's
I
okay.
think you'll continue to see Microsoft adding value to the Xbox 360, even when there is a new console.
Right.
They'll,
Well, it's a
they'll
PS2.
but no, I think it's more than that. If I were them, and I have no knowledge on this topic, so I got to preface everything I say.
You're in good
that
company.
way. But if I were them, I would find a meaningful use for your Xbox 360 once you have the next Xbox. And considering all the investment they've made in the media side, in the gaming side, in Kinect, I mean, why couldn't your Xbox be
Why does it have to go to the garage?
like a terminal for your next Xbox?
Right.
All right,
So
totally.
you're the way you have the multi-room DVRs. That's something that
Right, it could
everybody's
do that.
Well, the
announcing now
Xbox
here.
can do that.
Well, there
Right.
you go.
Yeah,
the
they could do that.
Xbox can be, your Xbox extender for your
Right.
new Xbox.
Yeah.
And so there's potential. I think I don't see them
I mean,
just
it's
giving up on
possible-
Xbox. In other words, if you just
Mark-
bought an
Mark-
Xbox 360, you don't have to feel like
Could a
No,
seven-
it's a
we're
good
gonna
it's a
announce
good
something new
investment.
tomorrow.
Could your
That's what I'm
720 power multiple rooms, multiple TVs, using the Xbox perhaps to do
As a
some?
client.
Yeah, I mean that
The
might
Bill
work.
Gates super
that would
house.
make sense to me.
The other thing that Microsoft has going for it that no one else has is they built an infrastructure where they can search
More money
all
than
the
everybody
apps.
else.
Well, but they can search all the apps on the platform. So on your iPad, you're supposed to be able to search within apps. It never works. Either nobody supports the APIs, or they're not very good, or they just don't work. When you go up and actually search for Batman on the Xbox, which
works.
is always the example,
very well
you
done.
see
It does
all the
actually
games,
work.
all the
Very well
movies,
done.
all the stuff in Netflix, all the stuff in Hulu. It's all there, and that is a completely unique kind of post-TV experience
I think it's
that nobody else has.
Yeah. Now, I do think on TV, and the one thing I encouraged some of my friends at Microsoft to do was and I don't know if this is a good strategy or not, and I admire that they're kind of taking baby steps, but the one thing we don't have, at least in the United States, is we don't have a national cable company in so much as you're either part of this cable system or this cable system or that cable system, or except unless you go to something satellite like DirecTV or Dish, it's almost impossible to just have something uniform all the way across the country.
Even if you have everybody, Gary and I have Comcast. We live 5 miles apart, and we have different Comcasts.
Yes.
And this is why it's so difficult to
know
get to that dream situation where you have one living room box that rules them all, because in order to get there, you've got to deal with a fucking rabid bag of raccoons of cable companies that all have different priorities, and none of them really, they don't want you to do this.
Well, but all those cable boxes are the same spec. All of the cable boxes are very limited hardware,
so
very
that's
limited
what I was
specs.
getting at. It's just, imagine Microsoft. Who knows? Maybe this is what that fabled Apple TV
Media room?
is. But the idea is that if Microsoft could aggregate and just go make deals with NBC and ABC and CBS and have live television, ESPN, all the sports networks,
Well, they could
have
totally
live
be
and
the
just
MSO.
just be the provider. And no matter where you go, I mean, this could be worldwide. I've never understood why
they
why
could
television
convert
is so ridiculously balkanized.
They could
It's time
convert
for that to
consoles into a
change.
cable box anytime.
I mean,
they feel
Media
like it.
Room is a technology that exists
But hang
today
on,
that
no,
does that.
I'm not talking about a cable box.
No, but they
I'm not
could
talking
make
about
it,
calling
but they could
Time
be the
Warner.
MSO. No, they
They're
could be
doing
the
that
MSO.
now. Yeah,
They could
exactly.
go cut the deal, and they could say, because they have however many they have
Now,
in the U.S.
the question is-
I'm not sure internationally. They totally could in the U.S.
The question is, would it be a smart return on investment? Is it worth all the work considering all the other low-hanging fruit that's already there for them? Probably not. But the thing is, when you dream about your Xbox serving you up all your media,
Right,
one thing it doesn't do right now is the live.
The
TV.
average cable bill is $78 a month. It's worth their effort.
Yeah.
They
Versus
get you.
$7.99
They'll get
for
you.
Netflix.
And again, having your credit card on file.
Yeah, it's worth
What's
their
to
effort.
stop? What's to stop Microsoft just going flat out and buying somebody like Comcast? I mean, they've got
The government.
Well, no, they've got some money. They've got some money. They've got their own online content delivery
There
system.
are
They've
all
already
kinds
got
of
deals.
I don't
with
think they need to
ESPN.
buy
Yeah.
anybody. I
It's all
mean,
kinds of
essentially,
competition laws.
AT&T and Verizon have done this with UVerse and Fios television. They just decided we're going to be MSOs because we have a connection to your house. The real impediment to their being Microsoft being an MSO is they don't control the internet connection to the house, and that's what
Comcast and AT&T.
This is the problem. Even a company like Apple, which has probably had more success than any other company on the music side of corralling all the different music labels together with the iTunes store, and you look at Netflix, which is constantly, we see every week there's some new story about how they're at the mercy of the content providers. The content is king. The content providers always are going to rule the roost. And until you're in the business of creating the content and the means to get it into your home, it's always going to be a nightmare.
the content guys and the ISPs actually control the world.
Yes.
And the ISPs, which may be cable companies, maybe telecoms, but those guys can slap bandwidth constraints on.
But what do you
Well, hang on, and because most of those guys are the guys also delivering your live television and
Yeah,
have
they
the
vested
deals
interest.
with the municipalities.
Right.
They're-
Well, that's why
as soon
Verizon
as,
went
as soon
into
as you
it,
start
and
buying
AT&T.
that from Microsoft, they're
Right.
just going to start throttling your internet connection.
Right.
Or guess what? No, you can have all the internet service you want, but now it's metered.
Right.
But what do you think?
Television's not
This is why
needed on the
Netflix is
same
investing
cable.
huge amounts of money creating their own content because they're sick of content providers, content creators holding them over a barrel for the stuff that they.
I
But when
really
it's not
but
content
they're so
creators,
far
they're-
behind.
it'll be
Question-
internet providers.
The question is the next Xbox going to have a 4G chipset in it? Okay, because then you don't need the cable provider. Then you're automatically there.
Then you need
you're-
the carrier.
Yeah, then you need
No, no,
Verizon.
no.
Then you need Verizon, or someone else is going to fuck
but
you.
there's another
The
device.
telecoms have figured this
You don't
one
pay
out.
for it.
Yeah, no,
Well-
but somebody pays for it.
And the telecoms have a vested,
Kindle pays for it.
huge vested. The big question is what happens when there's enough HBO subscribers that HBO can renegotiate their deals with Comcast and Charter and all the cable MSOs.
It's too bad that when Al Gore built the internet superhighway for this country, he didn't actually do it on behalf of the government.
The HBO thing, I mean, again,
joke. Sorry, it's a
you got to
bad
remember, HBO
was
is
funny.
owned by
Gotcha.
Time Warner. It's more than 50% of their profits. Time Warner, you love to think HBO with their 39 million U.S. customers has leverage over the cable guys, except that when Time Warner goes and says, all right, here's what you're going to pay us for HBO because we have leverage, the cable guys go, fine, we don't want CNN anymore. We don't want TBS. We don't want TNT. And
Because right now, just to explain,
Time Warner doesn't even have leverage over Time Warner Cable. They're now separate companies.
yeah, well, they don't own them anymore. But Time Warner has to deal with all of this because they're a massive company with massive media properties. And if the cable guys say we don't want TNT, then they can't pay $1 billion to the NBA for the NBA contract.
Right.
So that's why HBO is in this death match with Netflix.
Right.
That's why they hate Netflix, because if people cut the cord and they stop getting cable,
Well, but hang on.
they lose
No,
on
no,
TNT.
actually,
So you think there's
So-
no turn?
Well, no, hang on. I think that
People will cut the cord,
I think if
but-
people cut the cord, the cable companies come in and go, "We're charging you now for this.
For internet
If you're
access.
gonna
Right.
watch your TV,
Well, they already do
and
that.
you're
It's
not,
already-
and you're not buying it from us.
Right.
We're gonna throttle your connection.
Yeah, that 1080p standard that you want for games, a 1080p video stream is about 6 gigabytes an hour.
Yeah.
And the average household watches 33 hours
Right.
of television a week.
Right.
So you're talking 200 gigs
And not
an
one
hour.
channel that whole
No,
time
and people
either.
don't really watch HD all the time. I know that, but you're still talking about 200 gigs a week, and people are bitching and moaning about being throttled back at 40 and 60 gigs.
Well, there's
You
the
know,
cut.
so-
Like
yeah.
my Xfinity cap is 250 gigs a month.
Right.
So I'd be
you
way
get it.
over that if I'm watching TV.
If
the
you're
way
watching
described
HD
it.
all the
I hit
time.
it downloading games from Steam. I hit it in December because of
Now, you can watch
16
Oprah.
releases.
You can watch the Oprah channel
Yeah.
in standard
But
def,
this
and you're
this
okay.
leads me to a really interesting question, right? So, as a research company, I'm meant to be looking into the future, and as I look into the future, I'm predicting that at some point, are we going to get to where the cords are cut, and I subscribe to the Epic channel, and I subscribe to the EA channel, and I subscribe to because I want to pay for the content I want to consume, and
Yeah,
I don't
think,
want to pay for the
Greg,
things I don't want to consume.
Absolutely, that is a possibility. I think the problem with that is, you always hear about 200 channels and nothing's on. But if you don't get all 200 channels, you don't discover fantastic programming like Walking Dead. You would never even know that show existed, and you wouldn't subscribe. Is it A&E? You wouldn't
AMC.
AMC. You wouldn't subscribe to AMC on its own if you didn't know about the show.
Yeah,
And
but
so-
once
it wouldn't get made.
once that show breaks out and people at work or whatever, or you're on the internet talking about it, you go get that channel.
But so few people would have it
But
that
again,
the show would never be made.
I think you guys are misunderstanding the dynamic. I'm going to repeat what I said earlier. If you don't buy that package of stations from your cable company, who's the one providing your internet, and you just decide, I'm going to stop by, I'm going to go get them a la carte by either direct internet connection or a Roku box or Hulu or Netflix or however else you're getting that content, your local cable companies can go, hey, guess what? We don't make any money off these companies, off these
Right,
people
we're gonna
anymore.
screw you over.
Well,
So
they do that
instead-
right-
No. So instead, we'll just charge them 10 cents a
Well,
kilobyte.
I
So
think
look,
I
and
think
they'll make their
metering-
money, and they'll
let
make
me-
their money back.
meter-
You'll
metering
end
the
up
metering
paying-
has to happen.
You'll
Hold on,
end
one
up
at a time, one
paying
at a time.
way more for the same content, and yet you won't have the 200 choices.
So let
This
me give you the
conversation's just-
non-media,
we're
the
going in
non-media
circles.
explanation is Walmart. Okay, it's what Walmart did to specialty retail. They put almost all specialty retail out of business. There aren't any local, corner stores anymore. They don't exist. You just don't go to the corner little tiny grocery store anymore. The big chains have put them out, which means fewer choices. You go to Walmart, they don't carry everything. And you used to be able to go and find anything you wanted. If cable goes that way, if you end up going over the top, you're going to have fewer choices. If you have fewer choices, quality suffers.
Yeah.
And so what happens is we subsidize, when we have our $78 cable bill with 200 channels,
Right.
we subsidize the AMC so they have 30 million households paying $1 a month or 50 cents a month or whatever they make, and they make just enough to make that show. And even those guys, it wasn't Breaking Bad, was it? One of the shows was almost going to get canceled.
It was Walking Dead, Mad Men, and Breaking Bad.
Yeah,
They were
Mad
gonna
Men and
kill
Breaking Bad. Yeah,
just
they were
by
talking
Mad
about like
Men.
cutting the number of
Yeah.
episodes because they couldn't afford the funding because they don't have enough subscribers. And if you give people choice, they would have fewer. You know,
Well, and
so,
here's-
so like my wife
and
is
you know
an
what?
addict on Beverly Hills. Was that Real Housewives of Beverly Hills?
Oh.
But,
Yeah, but-
she doesn't watch the other ones. But that one she loves.
Right.
But that's
But
but
you live in
that's-
Beverly
But if I had to
Hills.
pay, is that Bravo? If
She
I
is
had
a
to
Real
pay
Housewife
for
of Beverly
Bravo,
Hills.
if I had to pay for Bravo and I actually got a bill for $2 extra a
you'd
month,
cut
I'd be
yourself.
like, well, my wife would make me do it. But
Right.
but suddenly my bill, if I was paying a la carte,
Yeah.
I would get half as many channels and pay the same amount.
Well, but you can do that from iTunes right now. Literally, you can kill your cable, assuming you don't watch
You end up paying
live
way
TV,
more.
news,
You end up paying
or ESPN.
way more.
So the
Depends how much TV you
aggregators
watch. I don't watch
actually
much
serve
TV.
the aggregators
iTunes
serve a real purpose.
seasons are $30. You just choose.
My cable bill's $120, Mark.
You-
I can watch 4 seasons a month. I don't
your
watch that
cable
much
bill
TV.
probably includes your internet access.
yeah, of
No,
just
internet
that
is
one
$70
show.
on top of it.
But you're never going to.
Wow,
what
then
Mike was saying is
cut
that
back.
buffet. is
Yeah,
gonna
no
go
kidding.
away.
You need the buffet, or they can't afford to give you everything.
They're just
Well-
a socialist.
I'd say
Fair enough.
there's a bunch of stuff on that buffet. the shopping channels, all that shit. I mean,
Well, those are self-funding.
I'm gonna say, if it wasn't for the buffet, I would never have discovered.
You still contribute to a certain.
No, they
They pay.
But there's
That's
also,
ads. It's all
there's
ads.
also a bunch of other channels, and I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm
History
not like
Channel
going
and travel.
No,
and
but
all
you're right.
that.
It's like Speed Vision or Discovery Health,
Golf.
golf. But those are specialty channels that I don't know how many people watch golf, but 10% of people are like addicted to golf.
Fine, let the
And
golf
10%
fans pay for the fucking golf channel.
Right,
Right.
but the point
wouldn't
is
be a
that-
golf channel.
But yeah, that wouldn't exist. And
And
I have
your
it
point?
for when the golf guys come over and go, "Do you have the golf channel?" And yes, I do. I turn it on. I don't know.
I would never have discovered the joys of extreme couponing without the buffet.
Oh God, Gary.
Because I would never
you-
have selected the
but you would
you
never
you
go
have
to
a,
channel.
you have
Pawn
copious quantities
Wars.
of free time.
But you would never go to Pawn Wars or there's all these really
American Pickers.
There's these funny shows that you just find them and you go, "This is pretty funny."
Gary's
It's
still
pretty
upset that John and Kate plus 8 got cancelled.
Were you a John and Kate
it's
plus
not
8
on
fan?
What? Am I what?
Were you a John and Kate plus 8 fan?
No, he's just making shit up.
Is this true?
Yeah, I am making shit up.
Okay, good.
It's called sarcasm.
Let's go back to the console thing. Let's real quick.
Oh, games.
What the next generation Xbox is? It's gonna have discs. You're gonna buy a $60 disc, put that in the tray, play the game. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
They have to.
Yes.
Otherwise, there's no proprietary system that they can.
Well,
They need the royalty.
free to play download games, League of Legends style, that kind of stuff. Is that going to be part of the next
You
gen
don't need
business model?
Why would you need a 360 to play it?
Well, next gen graphics.
Why would they
thumb
get-
pads,
they wouldn't get their
Xbox
royalty.
Live integration.
They wouldn't get their royalty unless they did it through. You could only.
you can
play
do
it
in-app
through Xbox Live.
purchases in iOS. I mean,
I'm
it's the
saying, but
same-
it'd have to be exclusive, otherwise Microsoft wouldn't make a royalty. They wouldn't.
Okay.
They wouldn't work for
I'm
them.
going to hedge. I'm going to say it's going to be a bit of both. I think it's going to be a next-gen XBLA.
Okay.
Games.
That'd be
So
more-
some sort of
Okay.
more free to play, some
Exactly, yeah.
in between.
Maybe
right there.
ad-supported would be nice to see.
I
you
mean,
know,
I'll
like-
make a
I'm
prediction.
looking
That,
at-
I'll make a prediction that Call of Duty multiplayer won't be on the next generation Xbox 720.
You mean it'll stay lag on the previous system for the big
No, I think it'll
base?
move to PC based or cloud based, and Activision will go for keeping 100% of the pie on that.
Interesting.
I
What
think-
percentage of sales? I mean, you would know this. What percentage of their sales are on the various systems that they're on? Like they're on PC. No, Call of Duty, PC, Xbox 360, PlayStation 3,
PC tiny, 5% probably.
and what are the two
Xbox
consoles?
360 is probably 60 to 65.
And then 35 for
yeah.
PS3.
Well, Wii's really tiny too, but
I think
But-
mo-
But the
Price-
Wii- Wii's
price-
not the
again,
real
you
game
really,
either.
so
Probably
you
close
think,
to 2 to 1
So you think
Xbox.
they're just going to go 60%?
I think they're going to say if you want to play Call of Duty multiplayer, you're going to do it off the consoles and pay us a
Wow.
fee. I think.
I
they're-
hope they do that. I really do.
That opens a big multiplayer
what I'd
void
like to
on,
see is a
You
linear
can sell a lot
approach.
more copies of
a
Gears if-
layered.
if it weren't for
A
Call of
linear
Duty.
approach where you're seeing what you do. It's not going to be the same experience on every platform, but what you do on your Xbox will have an effect. What happens on your
Do
iPad
it, Bobby. Do it.
has
You
a-
think there's a whole cloud of
I'm
devices
seeing
from different
it. I'm
vendors
seeing
talking
it.
to each other?
I'm seeing it now.
Oh, I think that's crazy.
There's a company in California with a name that
He's a
goes with
nutcase.
D and ends with Isney. Okay, that are doing.
Duh.
doing
You could have
this
just
right
said
now.
Disney.
No, I can't.
Well,
Also-
I mean, Activision do that with
But-
Skylanders. Skylanders talks across platform because they're using a physical token that holds
Exactly.
the data.
Right.
Skylanders is
But
awesome.
imagine being
Skylanders
on
is
any
pretty
device.
rad.
Imagine fishing on your iPhone in World of Warcraft and then going to your browser. And
Imagine a world.
then crafting. You know,
You guys don't know that
But
joke.
the Mac version of Skylanders is a hideous port.
Of course.
Well, my question is, let's do the quick thumbs up, thumbs down. Will any next-gen console have a fully fledged HTML5 plus
What the
browser?
hell does HTML5 have to do with it?
you can play
Well,
games.
well, the
in it.
reason I bring that up is
run
if
Bastion in
it
it.
does, then that opens up the ability to play whatever the next gen of
games.
Facebook
I
or
know.
whatever games we have coming through the online portal.
So these hardware companies are going to subsidize this piece of hardware so you can go around them and play games and not.
Well,
not put them
Microsoft
in
owns
the-
a fair
Well,
chunk
I'm
of
going to assume
Facebook.
that's a thumbs down from you.
Okay. So for me, just so you know, kids, okay, if you want to play really bad games, slow games, HTML5 is the way to go.
Are we
Fair
getting
enough.
on that topic?
Yeah, well, we talked. Bastion was on HTML5. It's a weird port. It's out.
It actually wasn't.
Well, I'm not saying it's
Oh.
necessarily
No, it's a
HTML5
HTML
permanently,
wrapper
but
in Flash.
will
Okay.
there be a fully fledged browser, the ability to play browser-based games on the next generation of consoles?
No, of course not.
It's actually optimized.
There's a rumor that there's going to be Chrome on next generation PlayStation. I don't know that I believe that, but
Why would they
That's
do that?
after Google buys Sony.
yeah, probably. Other stuff in the consoles. Let's see what else. What are the other big questions?
Was there any Vita stuff at CES?
That's the other question. We haven't talked about Sony stuff at all.
Oh yeah.
I don't. I mean, is Vita's had
What were
a strong
the
launch
big
week.
bullet points of the Sony thing?
I
today?
wasn't at the Sony thing today, unfortunately. I know that Kelly Clarkson sang.
Great. That'll have big implications for the future of
People
technology.
on Twitter talked about Kelly Clarkson, and apparently Will Smith was there briefly flogging Men in Black 3.
From what I understood from following my Twitter feed today, they didn't see practically anything about games.
Yeah, they had 4K TVs.
Well, hang on, guys. Wait, just so we stop picking on the console companies. Whenever you're talking about CES, the game guys, they say that's not really our show. We have E3 is really our big show, and a little bit GDC where we're talking to developers. So I know it's easy pickings to beat them up for not talking a lot about games, but they don't view this as the show for games.
Well,
they do have other stuff to sell.
I'm not
so
actually.
let's not beat them up.
I'm
for
not
that.
beating. No,
Let's
I'm
examine
not
what
beating
they
them
do.
up. Honestly, I came to CES and I didn't expect Sony, Microsoft, or even Nintendo, who have nothing else to talk about, to really sort of like unveil anything amazing. They'll wait for GDC and E3. I think that Sony this year will a 100% Vita, and if they do decide to go totally bananas and announce PS4 at E3, even if it's a trailer, I think they are shooting themselves in the head, because the PS3 is a great console and has at least 3 to 4 years of solid life in it.
Which is now finally started to find its feet.
Yeah, I mean, it had the best exclusive lineup last fall. No offense to to Gears, but I mean, it did. It had Uncharted. It had even going back to like games like Infamous 2. Great game that got totally hosed. What Sony need to do is get their thumb out their ass and really perfect their
Sony
marketing.
did have they had a great exclusive lineup, no question about that.
Well, yeah.
Right, those are all great games. So I'm not.
But Michael has been very vocal in the past about how Vita is going to be just a gigantic train wreck, and he and I are in agreement on this.
I mean, I love the device, and I want one, and I think that it's going to be super fun to play games on. I don't think it has a big market.
They have an amazing launch lineup. I mean, it's the first thing that's launched in years that has
they learned the Nintendo lesson that if you're going to go high price, you better have a lot of software.
Yeah.
So I think the hardcore is in heaven. I think that the 5 million people who really want to play handheld console-like experience are going to buy it fast. I just don't think it has mass appeal.
Is it just that there's
the
only
same
5
thing
million
could have
people
been
who
said
play
about
that?
No, I think
the same
that-
thing could have been said about the PlayStation 3 the year it launched.
I think the price point of the Vita being the same price point as a PS3, someone who doesn't have a PS3 is not going to opt for a Vita over a PS3.
Yeah, because you have a massive legacy collection of titles. And all that.
I think that, so I think it only appeals to somebody who already has a PS3, and I'm not sure that it gives a PS3 owner a better experience. I don't believe Uncharted on the Vita is better than Uncharted on the PS3. So I think it has limited appeal, and it's really the super hardcore Sony guy who really likes those first-party titles, and props to them, they're great titles. And so again, I want one, but I don't think it's not like you get your kid one instead of getting your kid a smartphone. And you ask my kids, and it's like, iPhone or Vita?
How old are your kids?
11.
Okay.
iPhone. You
Yeah.
know, in like a heartbeat.
It's a matter of the price points as well. Like Mark's subsidiary of Mark's company, Chair Entertainment, did what I would call probably the best mobile game in the history of the industry, Infinity Blade 2. And I'm not kissing his ass because
Yes, actually you are. But that's okay.
But no, it was just
I'm editorially
stunning-
independent. It's a very good game.
So it was a stunning game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Looks good and plays
so
good.
am I gonna buy that for $7.99 or Uncharted for
It's
whatever?
$6.99, by the way.
There's opportunities for
So
microtransactions.
am I going to buy it
inside,
for
Mark.
$7.99?
Don't,
The price is going up tomorrow, so you should buy it
No, it's
today.
Or Uncharted's going to be $49.99.
Or do I pay
Yeah.
for like a $49.99?
Well, and are you going to get 49 hours out of Uncharted? No, I mean
True,
Infinity
but
Blade
I want
is.
a content snack. It's a mobile device. I see the data, okay? No one plays a mobile game for more than 20 minutes on average.
Well, somebody does. There's always
There are.
edges.
No, but
I mean, I
on
played
average.
Final Fantasy 3 on the iPad.
Okay.
I mean, that's a
Look,
death march.
It's horses for courses, as you British folks say. I think
I'm
they're
Irish.
what they need.
There's a window there.
There's
Be
some-
careful.
It's real thick glass we're in Vegas.
There's, look, it's going to come down to the killer apps. If there's, they announced, let's not forget, they announced Call of Duty. I haven't seen anything about it, but they announced Call of Duty when they launched the device. And the thing is, if they can bring Call of Duty to a portal, you look at the hours people put in that game now. If they can bring Call of Duty to a portable, enjoyable form factor that's always on, you never know what could happen. So I'm not willing to say that even if they have a weak launch, that it's over. I mean, look at 3DS. Everybody was ready to put the 3DS in a hole, and then geez, look, they released some good killer app software and it's selling. It all comes down to software, and saying that people won't pay decent money for great software experiences, first of all, just ignores history. Even ignores current history. We had, we had a huge, awesome Christmas where we sold tons of expensive games.
And when the handheld is a different experience completely than the console, and that's the DS,
the mobile phone.
But that's always been the DS, and that is phones make sense. When it's positioned as a substitute for the console experience, and the price points are about the same. I actually think they have.
I think it's a mistake, and I think it's tremendously unimaginative. The least interesting way to make a handheld console, the approach to say, well, let's take the games that people play on their 55-inch mega screens at home and just shrink it down. So it's much smaller. You can take it anywhere. When the screens get smaller and the way that you play them gets smaller, you have to approach the kind of games that you make differently. You can't just say, well, here's Uncharted on a 6-inch screen, but it's exactly the kind of game that you would play at home. I don't want to play Uncharted 3 or a game like that on a 6-inch screen any more than I want to watch The Dark Knight Rises on a 6-inch screen.
Let's agree
they are big screen experiences.
So let's agree that Uncharted is not the killer app. That's
Lumines is the killer app.
But then why is Sony making it their killer app?
But you know what? FIFA Soccer, I buy that on every platform.
And FIFA's great on the PSP.
Right?
I agree.
And the PSP, I mean,
I think it's great on the PSP.
The Vita versus it's night and day how much better the Vita is for playing a game like that. In other words, so that could take off an online, fully playable over 3G and Wi-Fi killer app version of FIFA Soccer. That could be the killer. I'm just saying, don't close your mind to the experiences that are possible on this machine, that because it's portable and you can play it for 5 or 10 minutes, that aren't so possible on the other machine. You'd be able to download software. I mean, I don't know. I'm just not ready. I'm not ready to call it a day, because I believe that there will always be some app for any piece of hardware that turns that into that must-have piece of hardware. Do we know what it? I don't believe we know what it is today for the Vita, but I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt that if it comes out, the thing will skyrocket. It's a fantastic piece of kit, and just because they're pricing it this way at launch doesn't mean that if they had killer apps and great software and services revenue, that they couldn't, drop the price much less.
And the other side.
And by the way, those iPod Touches that we're all buying our kids are not that much less expensive. In fact, the Vita at what's the price of Vita? $249.
$250.
$250 is less expensive than the iPod Touch. If you go by the iPod Touches, if you go by the iPod Touches that they actually sell. In other words,
if you 8 gig one is not available usually.
But do you see what I'm saying? In other words, enough people buy the higher end iPod.
I paid $189 for I think I've got a 16 gig.
No, it's 8 gig.
8 gig. And this is what's the storage on the PS Vita? It's 0, right? With a 2 gig.
You do have to buy
with a 2 gig card.
$3,000
cost
card.
more.
I'm not saying that's a good idea.
And read the Steve Jobs book. I mean, people buy iPods because of the frickin' iTunes store. It's like your music is
killer
there.
Apps.
That's right.
Those are the killer apps.
I don't know that Sony can do that.
Saying, and I'm not saying they can or can't. I'm just saying don't be so quick to write them off because you can't see what it is. Otherwise, look at all the people that wrote off the iPad for the same reason.
And all the people who wrote off the PSP.
Remember when they announced the iPad? I remember going to I was lucky enough to get an invitation to go to the iPad launch.
I saw you on the stage.
Right, yeah, and I got to touch that. As soon as the iPad, you could easily see people were thinking, it's a big iPod Touch. But as soon as you put that thing in your hands, you go, must have one. And the Vita does have that tactile type of feel. And so, don't under, like I say, considering what people are paying today for phones and for non-phone devices like iPod Touch, I wouldn't underestimate that viral. Oh my God! If 5 million people buy the thing, it won't be hard to find the next 5 million.
I don't think anybody who's touched the Vita would deny that it's a sexy system and desirable once you have it in your hand. But the problem, we've talked about this before. Smartphones change everything. This system does not exist in a vacuum. One of the things that smartphones and apps have done is completely change our perception of value. Where suddenly a $4.99 app. Because we live in a world of free apps and 99-cent apps. Suddenly $4.99 seems kind of expensive, and now we're being asked to pay $50 for a mobile game for it. Uncharted on PS Vita may be very, very good, but it's probably not that much better than Infinity Blade 2, which you can get for $6.
Again, disagree, and only because
wait.
Again,
you're on both sides of this one.
I know it's beautiful.
On Infinity Blade,
you are part of the problem.
Look.
You should be charging $40 for
All I'm
Infinity
saying
Blade.
is, again, divorcing yourself from the devices and talking about the experiences to deny that there are tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people willing to buy $60 gaming experiences. If you can, they might be willing to buy 50 or 40 or 30. Don't discount that. Don't, when we launched Infinity Blade, people would, here's the best part. When we launched Infinity Blade, people said, "You're nuts. Are you crazy? Your game's not 99 cents. You're not going to sell any of it." And then the next one, we launched a higher price. Guess what? We did in a month what the first one did in 3 months.
Mark, you're right. There's 100 or hundreds of millions of people who are willing to pay $50-$60 for a game, but they're willing to do that on a console with a 55-inch
but
screen.
To say
and you're
that,
not going to
you're
convert
you're
that
just
many of them.
saying for sure. Well, you just don't know. I'm not predicting success or failure. I'm just saying go into it with an open mind and wait till we see what the killer app is. I don't believe the killer app is in the launch group. Right, that part I can tell you right now. I just don't feel the titles I've seen at launch. I don't feel the killer app is among.
Well, there are some problems with some of the. I mean, Ridge Racer I know has problems, and we've all played Lumines. So,
I like a lot of the titles.
It's
The titles they
Lumines.
had, the ones, Little Big Planet was fantastic. The stuff they had at E3, the tennis game, I mean, they were great games. So I'm not saying it's not a criticism, but I don't know that we've yet seen the killer app.
So this
guess what? Us guys sitting here, we won't decide the killer app. Consumers will decide that.
Of course.
And they may decide there's no killer app, in which case he's right.
So this leads into the next question. Nintendo launched the 3DS in March. Kind of weak launch lineup. Good games came out. I think the first couple of real interesting games came out in April. A month later, it was Ocarina, right? A few months after that, we saw Super Mario Land, and it got progressively good throughout the year. Do you think that the era of the holiday console launch is over? Are we going to see a kind of lighter launch in the springtime, give them time to build a catalog and production capability so they can roll into that first holiday season real strong instead of struggling?
That is the way forward. I think if anybody, and I'd love to know what Michael thinks on this, but yeah, doing that soft launch, ironing out the kinks, giving the developers a chance to have something really great for that fall where you've built up
and ramp hardware,
this fan base. I mean, you look at
what part about that isn't the way every single piece of hardware has been done.
I mean, we were talking about
exactly how they've all been done. But you never see a real next gen title in the first 6 months of the platform. You just can't. It's impossible to bring one out like that. Like the titles you see as launch titles are titles people had in the hopper and gradually upgraded and made them fresh and shiny. But
I remember very well the launch.
You just don't have the experience.
The
with
360
the
launch lineup was pretty weak, and that has now gone on to be a staggeringly successful system.
And when did that change? About a year after the console.
Dead Space, Dead Rising, Zero. No, Dead Rising.
Which one was it? Dead Rising?
Dead Rising.
Perfect Dark Zero, I think, was the launch.
Yeah. Perfect Dark Zero is
Perfect Dark Zero, Call of Duty,
Cameo.
I mean, it was lame. It was a lame launch title.
Cameo was the best of it.
I know.
Cameo's a good game.
That. I actually like that game.
I actually remember we did a little video report
for the system.
Massive crowds of
we did a
Vertex
video
animated
report
dudes
where
going like
we
this.
went out to the Walmarts and we said to people standing in line for what was it, November 2005, saying Xbox 360. They were like standing in line. I said, what games are you excited about? It was like it was a trick question. They didn't know how to answer it.
Yeah. I bought an Xbox 360 for Geometry Wars, and I was really stoked about that because that game is awesome.
That was actually, I think, like the first game anyone was excited
Best
about.
Best launch game, flat out.
It came as part of.
No, Hexic came as part of it. You had to pay $5.
Oh my God, Hexic! God, what a shit launch that was. This really proves Mark's point. One of the shittest launches, really, when you think about it, and it's now this mega system.
I mean, Perfect Dark Zero. Microsoft should pay me for playing that game. It was terrible.
But that's what you get at launch because the hardware didn't even finalize itself until a few months before. You just don't have the experience with a piece of hardware. Yeah. It just takes time, and we saw that with Xbox 360. We saw it with PlayStation 3. We saw it with every console.
Well, but I mean,
even the PlayStation 1 had
a good launch title though doesn't necessarily have to squeeze every last ounce out of the hardware. The kind of thing would get developers getting used to the system where you were talking about and having lots of time to learn what it can do. It just has to be a good game.
And I'm not criticizing any titles. I'm just saying that it just takes time to get to the place where you really are showing what the machine can do. And that's consistent with every single piece of hardware that's ever launched.
I mean, this next generation...
iPhone is a perfect example.
Well, but the iPhone, they're iterating every year. So, I mean, we're seeing... That's the other huge advantage that the mobile stuff has over the PSP. We're probably never going to have physical controls, which rules out whole classes of games.
You can actually consider the iPhone as a product that had kind of a soft launch. The whole first generation iPhone was kind of no app store. No apps. It wasn't until the app store came up with the second generation that you can see that the sales chart went like that. Then it exploded.
The only console I can think of recently that had a one killer app absolutely day one was the original Xbox with Halo, and that was obviously a PC port that had been built on the PC.
Well,
built on the PC. Makes your point.
Exactly.
Makes your point. But they had the Halo, and what else did they have? Obi-Wan.
But we're in a situation right now where you could take the
Shrek.
PC.
Oh God, Obi-Wan.
Oh,
Obi-Wan
shit.
was so bad.
It's horrible.
So bad.
Oddworld. I think Oddworld.
Oddworld was critically, but
that was the
sold
launch title,
nothing.
right? No, but that was the launch title. I'm trying to remember the launch title.
Yeah.
Shrek. I think Shrek was the launch title.
And I think that, and there
I
was
think
a
it
racing
was,
game. Was that
actually.
Project Gotham or something like? No, that was later.
Yeah, it was. It wasn't even.
But
Forza.
everybody bought it
Ridge
for
Racer.
Everybody
probably.
bought it
Wait,
for
no,
Halo.
That's not right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Well,
made the franchise.
Oddworld.
And you played
Oddworld
Halo
was
for the
good.
first
You guys
year.
played Oddworld.
Well, no,
Oddworld
people.
was
I
a
mean,
good game.
look, I'm not poo-pooing launches. People who are enthusiasts will buy the game. They'll buy the system at launch. They'll buy a lot of the launch games. There's lots of reasons why you would do a launch title. It's a good chance you'll sell because of there's only
There's a
handful
limited
of
number. Yeah.
So I'm just saying though, but to kind of what you said about Nintendo, people had DSs, and so they waited until they needed the 3DS. And when did they need it? When Mario came out, and to some extent when Zelda came out, but for sure when Mario came out.
Right.
And also when they dropped the price.
Oh, that
Star
helped
Fox
for
was
sure.
good too. Yeah.
That helped for sure.
I wasn't sold on the 3DS. I
haven't bought one yet.
Yeah,
who here has a 3DS?
I bought one and I am not in any way sold on
I
it, which
just-
sounds kind of self-defeating, but they did sell me on it. I bought one,
Actually, the
but
new-
I'm not convinced. I'm
Mario,
glad I
the
bought it.
Mario game on 3DS is
So
pretty
Everybody I've
spectacular.
talked to that plays that is real hot.
I think that's the best Mario game yet. I really do.
For me,
My
like the
son
3DS
does.
just gives me a migraine. Okay, I put on the 3D and
You don't have to play it in 3D.
Then I turn it on. So
Well,
why
then
do I
doesn't that
pay?
defeat the
Why-
object?
but
That's the whole
point of it.
system's kind of raison
No,
d'etre is that it's in 3D.
We could have a
well,
whole
just turn it
panel
off.
about
Well, okay, well,
whether
then I
3D
should have
is
just bought a
something
DS.
Actually, why not?
Have a whole
You
panel
had
about whether
3D?
3D is something people
Didn't you have
want or
3D?
don't.
Gears of
want.
War 3.
You
Gears of War 3 had 3D.
Yeah.
Yes, 3D.
Do you know how many times I have a 3D TV? I have glasses. Did I turn it on? I'd learned my lesson.
You
by
know,
then.
some people want it, some people don't. I think that's a user preference thing. Building a console all around it, maybe not such a great idea.
But the consoles already are struggling to get 30 frames a second without doing 3D and maybe not doubling, but depending on how your render works, more or less doubling.
And again, going back to the earlier conversation, what could you do with so much horsepower? Well, there you
Right.
go. You just
We can
3D.
give
You
people
could
something else they don't want.
better
More
3D.
3D.
Well, I'd probably like 3D more if it was 60 hertz.
So back to our
per
back
eye.
to our
I got
back
the
to our
3DS.
cable discussion.
But again, no resolution.
Marky
That's
Mark,
not a resolution
Marky Mark.
change. That's a
All right,
horsepower
so
change.
we're going to buy 3D
course.
displays when we have 3D broadcast because that's the reason to buy it.
We have 3D.
Sony, no, when you have a lot of channels.
When I can watch the
Sony
Today Show?
Sony thinks we're going to buy it just to play games, and that's a super limited.
Well,
market.
gamers will.
When I say market with Vita, super niche market. But 3D just for games, it's a niche market. 3D for the masses, only when you have broadcast. You can't have broadcast unless you have bandwidth. You don't have bandwidth for every single channel out there to have 3 separate feeds, standard def, HD, and 3D. So 3D is just not happening for a long
Well,
time.
standard def's going to go away before too long.
So the 3DS is kind of an interesting, novel device. The games are kind of fun.
So
And I think they're going to get better and better.
The
and better.
DS was an interesting
So hang
novel
on.
device too.
And the games got better
So
and
let's,
better and
wait,
better.
let's tie it into
Yeah.
CES. So someone here, and I can't remember who, is showing off a 4K TV.
a bunch of people are.
No,
Multiples.
a 4K TV that does auto stereoscopic 3D, whereas each eye gets a full 720p.
No glasses?
No glasses.
Toshiba.
Is it Toshiba?
Toshiba did
so
that- had
I'm
one of those
really,
last
I'm
year,
really
yeah.
interesting to see how that looks because
I saw Toshiba.
like, look, I don't really believe 3D is going to really take off until A, there's no glasses, and B, we have some sort of holographic display where you really get a lot of fidelity. You get the full fidelity of whatever the thing can broadcast as opposed to one image.
Yeah,
for each
and
eye.
as you said
Right.
before, what they call 3D is really just kind of like quasi 2D. It's not a three-dimensional object. It's like a pop-up
yeah,
book. What you're
yes,
seeing is
yes.
two-dimensional
Right.
planes at different degrees of depth.
Right.
That's not what real 3D looks like.
But eventually there'll be some holographic technology that will give us real scenes in real 3D. And I don't know if it'll be weird watching TV in a box. Even though we
Are
watch
you talking
TV
about like
on
an
a
actual,
box.
like a scene being projected
You're
around
talking about
you?
the thing from
Sure.
Sequest.
Or projected on a table.
Like a
or-
stage, like a
Yeah.
stage.
Yeah.
Where it would be
Right,
like actors on
the
stage.
Star Wars chess.
Yeah, something. Yeah,
Yeah.
Right.
something like that. And so who knows? But I mean, it's either you want 3D or you don't want 3D, and it's.
I don't want
total
3D.
User preference.
I don't want 3D.
I mean,
None of us want
I
3D.
don't want it in its current incarnation because it's crap. I'm willing to believe that 3D will get better, and
Gary,
I want
tell us
that.
how you really feel.
I said to Mark earlier when we were sitting down in the sports book, I've never seen an example of an industry, the consumer electronics industry, and Hollywood as well, forcing something down the throats of consumers that they so clearly have said time and time again they don't like. We don't. The 3D ticket prices are down. We're not seeing explosive sales in 3D TVs. But they keep doubling. They say, no, you really want it, even though we don't like it. The experience is not that great. It's expensive. The glasses are clunky.
Well, and that's the thing. 3D TV prices have come down by about 50%.
Well, isn't it now
and
just
sales
a feature?
doubled? Go figure. Yeah,
But
it's a
isn't it
feature.
now-
It's
it's
just
just
it's like
now-
apps.
but-
You're never
but hang
going to
on,
use it.
But now it's like being built into every TV
Right,
anyway.
for a couple
so they're
$100
calling
you'll buy
them
it.
3D
Right,
TVs,
agreed.
whether people are turning on the 3D
course,
or not.
of course.
I have a 3D TV in my office.
It's
every
almost
day.
like 1080p. My Xbox is 720.
I turn it on 3D.
Yeah, we're not going to
check
say
out
we're not going to
games.
say very soon. We're not going to say HDT. We're just going to say TV because all TV and
Just-
the same will happen with 3D. Eventually, it'll just be in every box.
One
It'll be
data
a
point.
cost
like
center, not a
MMX.
profit center. Right now,
Remember
3D is a
MMX?
profit
Of
center.
course.
Right?
Okay. In like a year, 2 years time, it's just going to be a cost center.
One of our most
No,
popular
it'll be free.
videos last year was where we popped out the lenses in 3D glasses you get at the movie theater and showed people how to swap them so that they become 2D glasses. Instead of having two pairs of 3D glasses, you have 2 pairs of 2D glasses. So you can go to the 3D movies with your friends and not get the 3D effect. That's all it does.
You're basically
It
you're
turns a
basically turning 3D movies
movie
back into 2D.
into a 2D movie.
But you pay the $3 ticket premium because you're a dumb
Well,
shit.
because here's the problem
no,
now:
'cause
is
you want
that
to
is
see
that
3D.
the 3D
Oh, I see.
version dominates all the bigger
Right.
screens. So
Oh,
if you
I
want to see it
see.
on a big screen, that's the only way to do
Well,
it.
and in San Francisco, there were a lot of you couldn't see a lot of movies not in 3D. I mean, Green Hornet, which nobody should have seen.
If you flip
There were no
the,
2D
you flip
showings
the
of that.
eyes and
I
it
thought
turns it
Yeah.
into 2D.
If you put
and it
left eye,
collapses
left eye,
it back
right eye,
into
right
2D.
eye.
So everybody should move to Raleigh, North Carolina.
Man, I love Raleigh. I've been
We have 2D screens.
over in Tennessee side. Okay,
What else?
iPad. We haven't talked about iPad. Is iPad a gaming force? You
Well, I would
probably
imagine
think
these
so.
guys think it is.
Yeah, I mean it's
They have
done
they have
okay.
the number one killer app game on
I
iPad.
really like the iPad. I mean,
Everybody here has an iPad.
I game on it, but I don't. That's the thing is like I hate when people try to pick. It's either this or this. I game on all these different devices, and then there's just it's just what's the best game to play on each experience. And iPad is great. iPhone is great. Android phones have some good games now. Console, PC, web. I mean,
Mark,
it's
you're
just-
getting real lovey here.
I
don't
know.
if
It's
I
all.
like this.
I love gaming. I just love gaming.
But like in fairness, okay, so I've got every device, and I'm sure every one of us here has every device. Okay, consumers get to pick one. Okay,
Or
That's
two.
not- no,
That's
that's
not
not
true.
true. That's not
now,
true.
Yeah.
well, the average one, the average like guy or girl out there,
Well, most
buys
people
a
are getting
iPad
smartphones.
or they buy a Kindle
But
Fire.
smartphones.
Everybody's having by the end of
another
this, 5
5
years.
The,
years
the whole
down
reason
the
why
road,
there's so much
smartphone.
tribalism and Xbox Defense Force and Sony Defense Force and this kind of stuff and PC Defense Force
'Cause they
is
don't
that most
have-
people have one system
right,
and they
right.
feel tribally attached to it and they want to defend it. I have the luxury of being platform agnostic because I have all the major systems. Most people don't have.
Dude,
They,
you have
they want
3
to feel
Xboxes.
connected to
That
the one
means-
system
that
they
means
own.
you love Xbox more.
What's that?
You have 3 Xboxes and 1 PlayStation 3. That means you love the Xbox more.
No, I have 2 PlayStation 3s.
Still. Point
That,
holds.
that must be the reason.
Yeah.
Have tried.
Clearly there's a
Wait,
bias.
hold on. Wait, do I like Xbox more because I have more Xboxes, or do I have more
You
Xboxes
should
because
hate
I like
Xbox more.
Yes.
Because you paid more for them.
Yes, all of the above.
None of this makes sense anymore.
No.
There's games that work well on touch.
What do you mean any more?
What? Fair enough.
Okay, keep going.
Games that make sense for touch.
ping
Games
pong
that make
match.
sense for physical buttons. We do this every week. Physical buttons. Have any of you used Xperia Play? I'm sure you know.
Is that still a thing?
Yeah, they sell it. It's a quite nice.
I
it's
have
a
it
nice
next to my
gingerbread phone.
Gizmondo and my Engage.
Oh,
It's doing
that's
about 3
cool.
million a month on Verizon. Not much, but for the amount of developers publishing on it, it's a lot. Basically, so this is what it is for me. I'm the mobile gaming guy, okay? So just to address what iPhone and iPad has done, it's enabled the guys that are in their basement that would never have got their game made, okay?
Yeah.
The Rovios that did Angry Birds, the Limbics that did
What the
Zombie
Rovios? Was it their 52nd or 53rd game?
Yeah, but they would never have been able to
be
sell
called
them.
Rovio.
It enabled guys who've been in
All
business
you need
for-
is one.
for 10
Mark,
years
That's
to-
disingenuous. Okay?
Rovio
They
Mega
done
games.
53 games that were first-party
They
games.
were brand
They
new
were-
They
basement
were
game
first-party
developers.
games paid for by Capcom,
Well, no,
by Handheld Mobile,
Rovio is not the best
by
example,
THQ.
but a lot of the most impressive breakout game stories the last year have come from the kind of bedroom developers that the
wind-up night
consoles
guys
Yeah.
wiped out.
quit their jobs
back
at
in
Activision.
back in the 8-bit days,
you know.
it was one guy who created a game, and then game budgets became huge, and they became these huge Hollywood productions, and you had to go through all
Faceless
kinds of
multinational
proof of
corporations
concepts
like
and green
Mark
light
here.
procedures to get a game to market. The great thing about mobile gaming is it brought back that one guy with an idea who
Exactly.
could execute on it, get it to market, and have a big hit.
Look at Limbic, okay? 5 guys out of college,
Yeah.
couldn't get a job, okay? They sat together, they did zombie gunship, okay?
it's hard to be
They've
one
sold millions of
Yeah,
this
maybe a
game.
couple.
They've monetized in-game
Yeah, I mean, you
really
could-
great.
Plenty of ways
okay?
to spend real money to buy
Yeah,
bullets.
Yeah, exactly. But they basically. So I was talking to these guys a couple of weeks ago, and I was like saying, "So what are you going to do now?" And they were like, "We were talking about getting an office," and I said, "What do you mean?" And they said, "Well, we've got 5 offices."
The trap.
And I said,
Yeah.
"There's
Has been
only
laid.
5 of you."
Once
How
you
much-
hire an HR person, it's all downhill.
How much
The
credit
trap has been
can you really give smartphones for this though? Because in reality, the system and the way to do this has always been there. What is the number one breakout game
App
story of the
Store,
last 12
Jerry.
years? It is Minecraft. Was created by one guy on a platform which has been around for decades.
Yes.
Editor-in-chief
Yeah,
PC
fully.
gamer.
So a
Barry Whitta.
smartphone's really that
And it's
revolutionary.
way more money than these guys are the same kind of effort is producing on
And no
on
30% to Apple.
mobile phones.
Right.
Yeah, but it looks terrible.
Well, and
a great
I
game.
think that's the thing
Yeah,
that
it's
we
a
have to
great
keep
game.
in mind is that
Yes, and what the Wii
I love
showed
Minecraft,
and what
by the way.
Minecraft has showed is it doesn't matter if you don't have to have the best graphics to get in people interested.
I think
in
you guys are
Minecraft.
nuts. Minecraft's graphics are fantastic.
Yeah, it's
like-
it's Nintendo. It's stylized.
Just because it's blocky doesn't mean it's crappy at all. Minecraft, the best thing about Minecraft that they pull off so well is the lighting. I mean, how much fun is it to go dig, and put a light on, put a torch on the wall, and it really
No, you make a
it's
good point.
actually
Patrick
pretty
Klepper
cool.
at Giant Bomb slapped me down on this a while ago.
It's
I
not
made
bad
some kind of
graphics
tweet
at all.
about like how
The
how
sun
the
goes
Wii's,
down. I mean,
the
it's-
Wii's graphics are crap, and he kind of threw that back and said, "What you actually mean is technically they don't have the highest resolution, but in fact, Nintendo games have some of the
Phenomenal
most
graphics.
beautiful games out there.
Absolutely.
They're just not in the
They're
highest
not-
resolution."
Yeah.
That's one of the things I'm excited about the Wii U is that
HD remakes of all your favorite Wii games.
Well, that's fine, but seeing the Zelda world in the way that you were picturing it in your mind, that's good. Like the little Zelda demo they had at E3, I thought was beautiful. It's like, wow, if you can make a whole game like that, that's going to be spectacular.
Yeah, it's going to be great. As much as I intellectually want to get past it, I cannot play Mario Galaxy and really enjoy it without that nagging voice going, "Think how much better this would look
It's
in
the
HD."
it's the Flash Gordon effect, right? I mean, Flash Gordon was the avatar of its day, and nobody's going back and watching Flash Gordon because you can't unring that bell once you've kind of gone through and your eyes have
hold on.
gotten used to seeing something that's really good quality. It's very, very hard to go back.
That's not true.
And that's just what's generally going to happen in the iOS marketplace too, which is what's going to make it why this is a wave, not a trend. In other words, this is a wave, and the wave is you can be a great indie
what is a
developer.
wave? Too many pronouns.
This is a wave, and you can be a great indie developer today because there's a lot of momentum. But as as you get up to the quality, like he was saying, buying an office, that's the trap is being laid. These guys feel their next game has to be graphically better, has to be better produced, and it just means that there's a wave pushing all the surfers to the beach right now, but eventually, the big boats are going to come in, and the big brands are going to
You
take
chop
over.
off the top of the wave by just doing sprites. Nothing but 2D.
There you go.
but so that's to
You
my
forgot
question.
the
We have some
Flash Gordon versus Avatar argument.
we have some journalists here. We have some developers here. So that's the question: is as we get more and more and more games, right? There's 300,000 plus games digitally out there between iPhone, Android, whatever now. 400,000 now apparently. So
Well, that was great from 300 to 400.
That was amazing.
Developing those games.
CES guys.
and they were all produced by Kevin Dent during this show. But the question here is, how do consumers find them? I mean, how do you find that great
Well,
game?
that's the
made
problem with
by-
Android
by
in general.
developer,
Is you
right?
can't find anything.
And how does that change? What role does journalism play in that? Because marketing, you can't. I mean, I'm not going to be bombarded by 300,000.
Well, that's.
games.
I mean, to me, that's the problem, right? What's going to happen is, and this is, and I know this doesn't sound great, so I feel bad saying it, but what is inevitably going to happen is, as you get to the point where you can now afford to market games for mobile devices, the way we got to the same point with PCs. Once upon a time, we made games in our bedrooms and we didn't market them. We sent them out in little plastic bags on discs, and we did them on BB. I mean, this is just the way media works. This was the same of early movies. This is just the way entertainment works. Eventually what will happen is a lot of those little games, it's going to be worse. It's not going to be better. A lot of those little games will get drowned out by the fact that now you can afford to market games. And you can afford to have bigger budgets on games, and you can afford to do higher production values. And eventually, when you can afford to advertise your iOS game, not by being lucky enough to be in one of Apple's commercials, of which, maybe there's 40 apps a year can pull that off, but by actually saying, this is our app, and we're out there marketing this, and we're getting outside of just discovery mechanism in the store, people go, oh yeah, that's on iOS. I should go check it out and search for it and find it. And eventually, those games will flood the top charts. The big guys with the big bucks and the big marketing budgets will flood the top of the charts the way they do on every other thing. I mean, people talk about Facebook games, but they spend a hell of a lot of money marketing Facebook
EA
games.
does a sale on the iOS at the end of the year, and they dominate the top 25 for the last month of the year. Every year now.
But just think how much worse it's going to be when each individual iOS game makes enough money for EA that now typically what we do in the game is we do about a 12%, 12 to 13%. Is that right? A marketing budget. So if you think your game's going to sell $100 million, you go out and spend $12, $13 million on marketing. Well, of course, nobody's going to sell $100 million today on iOS, but it's inevitable that that's going to happen. And so at the point in time where you now have all these companies spending all this money, they will just, it's just mind share. They'll be the things you heard of, and those will be the things that are on the top of the charts, regardless of whether they drop the price or not. They won't. Price elasticity won't play as big a role when marketing and branding is what is telling people what to buy.
Well, when we're talking about closed platforms and walled gardens, ultimately the onus is also on the platform developer, just as it is to give better tools to build apps. The reason there's better iOS games than there are Android games is the Apple tools are better at this point. Google's clearly aware of that and is working on that. I mean, I'm sure somebody's going to disagree, but
I don't
maybe
think
not.
That's the reason.
What's the reason? Market share? Or the fact that it's not a crazy fragmented platform?
Actually, the curated walled garden, I think, is what's keeping iOS fresh and why people are going there first. You can make money on iOS, right? I mean, it's just simple market economics.
Well, no ad-driven games.
You can make
not
money
as many
there.
ad-driven games.
But you can have ad-driven
There's also
games.
the aspect of fragmentation. I was doing an interview before Christmas about the Kindle Fire, and someone said, what do you think of the Kindle? And I said, Amazon are amazing. They found another way to fragment another hyper-fragmented market. And it's true.
There's 35 different graphics chipsets on Android right now, on mainline handsets.
And this is the reason why I think it's very easy to rattle off any number of games which have become big viral breakout hits on iOS, whether it be Sword and Sorcery or Infinity Blade. There's a new one every week. There's almost no examples of that exclusively on the Android side because the marketplace is chaotic.
Well, and your support costs go way up. Your development costs go way up. You run into lots of situations where customers, and it's not just the phones. Remember, Google doesn't make the phones other than one or two every now and then. So the phones are actually created by the carriers, and they decide what's on them, what's not on them. Sometimes they put so much software on them that you take the exact same model of phone, and this one has half the available memory of this one. Well, that's a nightmare for developers.
Right.
I mean, that happens even on good curated platforms when users have too many icons or install too much stuff, or memory starts to get eaten into. But on Android, it's totally out of control, and the guys who hold the platform are doing virtually nothing about it.
Even though iOS and Android have similar market share, if you're a game developer, you'd be nuts to bank on developing for Android first, because like you say, there's so much fragmentation and hardware differentiation between all the different phones out there. You're just buying into a big world of development headaches. Whereas with iOS, it's like developing on a console. There's one box, one set of specs, and the game will work on all the devices.
And on
there's
more.
And that Apple is out there. I have no idea what they spend, but look at all the marketing they're doing for
$2 billion.
But look at how many of those Apple ads are featuring apps. right?
All.
And are pushing the whole app
two-thirds.
ecosystem and all. I mean, they're, and a lot of times they have separate. They every now and then they'll do a new gaming related one. There's one out right now for iPod Touch that I saw quite a bit on the football game. So the point is, they're reinvesting a lot of their money to get people to buy the devices and to think of the devices as a platform for apps and to be conditioned to buy things on those platforms.
And on that note, we're going to take a quick break.
Look at the timing, right as the crew shows
We've
up.
got the rest of the crew. Gentlemen, thank you guys for coming out. We have had a lovely conversation tonight. Mark Rein, Michael Pachter, the peanut gallery over here on the left. Thank you guys so much. We're going to take a quick break. Drew's going to shut down the stream. We'll be back in a minute with the day recap.
With the rest of the tested crew.
Yeah, with the podcast.
Norm, you look fucking exhausted.
How are you still awake?
Because I spent all day in a spa getting super relaxed.
Hey, thanks.
Happy
for having
ending.
us.
Oh, sure thing, Mark.
Thank you very much.
Anytime, man.
Thanks, Will.
Thanks, guys. That was cool.